in the middle of a Manila melee. The Filipino capital is full of noise and colour and exuberance. You might think it's the last place you'd like to spend 48 hours, but in fact, I want to show you that this is a city of many dimensions and a great place to find some charm and calm, as well as sheer excitement. In the next 48 hours, I aim to explore the many dimensions of this always surprising city, which is now firmly on the agenda for British travellers seeking fresh frontiers. Thanks to a new air link, Manila is now a non-stop hop from Heathrow. The capital's airport is well within the limits of Metro Manila. I've just touched down almost 7,000 miles from London. I'm exactly 1/3 of the way around the planet and a good distance south towards the equator. And I'm about to get enveloped in Manila. It's a journey of only 5 miles or so from here into the city centre. It can take anything from about 20 minutes to an hour by cab. It all depends on the very interesting traffic in Manila. Taxi! You could always take a more radical solution. And if you're touching down by helicopter, you'll be landing on the rooftop of the Manila Hotel. That's how Bill Clinton and Michael Jackson arrived, though not in the same helicopter. Just over a century ago, the Filipino capital acquired a grand hotel to match the Oriental in Bangkok, Raffles in Singapore, and the Peninsula in Hong Kong. Today, the Manila Hotel, like those other opulent Asian addresses, has bolted on a tower block at the back, adding a touch of modernity and more than a touch of elevation. With the added benefit of a huge pool in the back garden and the South China Sea just beyond, if you crave yet more H2O. An alternative even closer to the sea is H2o. What happens if you put a hotel right next to an oceanarium? Come and have a look. 3,300 fish occupy this tank, which runs the length of the hotel so that every room gets this as one wall. To stay here is going to cost you upwards of £250 unless you angle for a discount, but it's worth it to enjoy sleeping with the fishes in a good way. A bath with a view, and if you'd rather the fish didn't have a view of you, well, luckily there's a blind you can pull down for a little bit of modesty. The H2o Hotel allows you a close encounter with the South China Sea and provides a reminder of the capital's maritime heritage, all yours to enjoy in style. Across in Makati, the big financial centre, you'll find all the 5-star global chains, but also the Hotel Celeste, a boutique establishment with just 30 rooms. The rack rate here is £150 a night, so what does that bring you? Well, obviously a very comfortable bed, breakfast for two, tea and coffee making stuff, mineral water, free Wi-Fi of course, and then a couple of extra touches. A welcome drink, thank you. And best of all, you also get a welcome foot and leg massage. Heavenly. The thousands of miles you've just travelled melt away. This is my favourite view of Manila, walking along the old city walls with the Spanish colonial core to my left and 21st century high-rises of this massive metropolis to my right. And just down there, a golf course, obviously. In the event that you're fortunate enough to survive wayward tee shots, then you'll be delighted to know that the hike through the colonial core begins right here. Intramuros, the city wrapped snugly within the mighty walls, is easy and rewarding to slice through. If you're feeling below par, then start your day with a stroll along Calle Real de Palacio, Royal Palace Street as it used to be known, the main thoroughfare through old Manila. The best way to discover a city like Manila is to step off the street and into an inviting courtyard. At the very heart of Intramuros is the Casa Manila, a magnificent aristocratic mansion. The 19th century was boom time in Manila when the Suez Canal opened and gave the Philippines much easier access to European markets. Like almost everything else in Intramuros, it was flattened during the Battle of Manila at the end of the Second World War, but it was painstakingly reconstructed in the 1970s thanks to the involvement of the First Lady at the time, Imelda Marcos. Intramuros was the preserve of the ruling classes, and predictably they made sure they had the very best that the tropics and the mother country, Spain, could offer. While the structure of Casa Manila is painstakingly rebuilt, the lavish interiors are all original, with contents that show what good taste and enormous wealth can achieve. Yes, a loo for two. I guess before the golf course was created, chaps had to have somewhere to talk. Manila Cathedral was built in 1951 to replace the original, which was wrecked in the Second World War along with much of the rest of the city. Fort Santiago was the former headquarters of the Spanish colonial administration, and in the 20th century was a notorious prison. At the centre of the Plaza de Armas is a statue to José Rizal, the Philippines' national hero, who was incarcerated here by the Spanish, tried and then sentenced to death. The hike ends at another open space, a reminder of how even in this mega city there's always somewhere to find a bit of fresh air and freedom. You'll certainly have worked up an appetite during the hike. Luckily, actually built into the walls, there's a cafe, El Desvan. Well, I've ordered the Filipino equivalent of an all-day breakfast. It's beef tapa, served with a bit of egg, a little bit of salad and some pickled papaya. It cost me 105 pesos. I improved that because I've got a receipt from a cafe which is engaged in the business style of meals. Someone who's engaged in the business style of being a tour guide is my friend Patrick Tudanka. Patrick, tell me how Intramuros worked.
Okay, Intramuros was basically a Spanish enclave, no? And basically people with Spanish blood were allowed to live inside, whereas Filipinos or those that didn't have any Spanish blood were kept outside of the walls. As a matter of fact, they were only allowed here either to go to church, to go to school, or to work. The city, however, imposed a curfew, which was from sundown to sunrise, where all non-Spaniards were not allowed to live in the walls of Intramuros.
Alternatively, you can cross over to Chinatown and order the finest vegetable spring roll in Manila, and it's made right in front of you. Look at this. Make the most of the calm in this lovely courtyard, because just wait to see what happens when you step outside. You won't be in town for long before you realise that actually Manila is one huge outdoor hypermarket. If you can't find it here, you're probably better off without it. Do you wish it could be Christmas every day? If so, come to Manila. The stalls with all the Christmas paraphernalia begin round about July, and from the 1st of November onwards, All Saints' Day, the whole place goes mad for the Nativity. Even people who are not keen shoppers will be caught up in the retail excitement. And the commercial energy of the street markets continues when you step into Manila's liveliest shopping centre. To give you an idea of the price levels, well, let me demonstrate with my patent back scratcher and massage device. This fine piece of carpentry cost me the equivalent of 30 pence. Oh, I scratch my back and you scratch yours. And if you're looking for something to carry all your clobber home, well, you could always buy a new case. This fine specimen, for example. Now, of course, there's lots of bargaining here. That started off at the equivalent of £35. It's now about 20. I reckon in the UK, it would cost 3 times as much. The big international brands are here too, and probably cheaper than at home. Time for a moment of calm reflection and the resonance of the colonial era here at Barbara's in the heart of the old city. Time also for a drink. Strong, delicious, intoxicating. No, not me, lambanog, which is, of course, Filipino coconut wine, 90 degrees proof. Luckily, that was just water. Anyway, if you want a drink based on a long story about short people, try this. Step off one of Manila's busiest streets and you can cross the misty mountains into the world of Bilbo Baggins.
Welcome to the Haunted House.
Thank you. Fantastic. This is great. About 80 years ago, J.R.R. Tolkien started writing his saga of dragons and wizards, trolls and goblins, elves and dwarves, and a hobbit named Bilbo Baggins. About 40 years ago, an American professor named Jim Turner decided to set up a bar based on the book and staff it with smaller people. It soon became a celebrated haunt on the Asian travel circuit. And Chrysostomo has been working here for 14 years. And how do customers respond?
When they come here, they're amazed, they're happy, and they are shocked with us because I think this is the only bar that the concept is here. It's like this. I think this is the only bar in the whole world, as far as I know. The concept is only like this, yeah. That's why they're happy, they enjoy to come here.
You can eat here as well, but in fact, to use the title of one of Tolkien's later works, the road goes ever on. And I'm going to follow it to the fish market. I bet you have been to seafood restaurants where it says on the menu, market price, and you've got no idea what that is. Well, here at Damper, you know exactly what it's cost because you buy it from a stall first and then get someone to cook it for you. I'm very surprised there's anything left at all in the South China Sea, since it all seems to have been caught and put on sale here. Goodness me. Wow. I'm going to try lapu-lapu, which is grouper, yes? Okay, will you pick one which is nice for me? Oh, look at that. My goodness me. Let's see how much it's going to be. Very good. 560, okay, so that's about, £8 or £9 for that. Yep, go on then. Gosh. Well, this isn't like shopping at home, is it? Now to find somewhere where they're prepared to cook it. Thank you very much. Here's one I bought earlier. Now I'm going to go to the Trinity Food House to get it cooked. I wonder where I'm going. Oh, backstage. Okay, here we are. Well, hello, nice to see you. How are you? Right. So here's a very nice lapu-lapu or grouper, and I would like it Chinese steam, please. That would be very nice. This morning, this grouper was swimming happily around the South China Sea. But this afternoon, he was on sale at the market where I bought him, and tonight, well, he's freshly cooked for my dinner. Catch of the day. Now, here's something you may not know about Philippine restaurant etiquette. If you want the menu, which clearly I didn't because I brought my own, then you do a big rectangle like that. If you want the bill, you just do a little one. Oh look, okay, how lovely, that's fantastic. Well, very good value, absolutely delicious, thank you very much indeed. I'm very happy. Good morning. The Philippines is a predominantly Roman Catholic country. Indeed, it's the biggest Catholic population of any country in Asia. And although Manila Cathedral down the road is technically the spiritual hub, it's about the 8th edition after fires, earthquakes, that sort of thing. Unlike the real spiritual centre, the Church of San Agustin, the oldest stone-built church in the Philippines. The church was one of the few Spanish-era buildings to survive the American bombardment during the Second World War. The spiritual heart of the Philippines is an inspirational place of worship and a richly decorated triumph of Baroque. Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, the founder of Manila, has a modest tomb in a corner of the church. But if you're in search of a miracle, then cross the city centre to the edge of Chinatown, where Quiapo Church is dedicated to the Black Nazarene, a statue of Christ brought by galleon from Mexico. And if you believe blessings come in threes. I came along here to the Church of Malate because of the British connection. For a couple of years, from 1762, we had kind of a cameo role owning the Manila area before we handed it back to the Spanish. But this is where the British based themselves, and today there's a wedding. Hooray! Here comes the bride. Just 1 minute's walk from the Malate Church across the square takes you to the Philippines' most popular restaurant. How do I know? Well, there's a very big sign outside saying just that. And also, this has been around for a lifetime, and it's apparently never ever closed, not for 1 minute. The Aristocrat began life as a street food stand in 1936, but very soon moved into these splendid premises. Now, at any time of the day or night, you can order one of the two specialities, either barbecued chicken or Aristocrat pancit canton, which is, thank you, what I've gone for, because we're an awful lot closer to China than we are to Texas. Guess what? It's the rainy season and there's a typhoon hovering over Manila Bay. But that's not going to stop me enjoying a walk in the park, starting with a walk through the Philippines, thanks to this marvellous 3D map of the entire country. On days when Manila enjoys its normal benign climate, Rizal Park represents the ideal breathing space, a front garden for one of Asia's biggest cities. Look out for locals practicing Anis de Mano, the national martial art. Here in Manila, urban transport is a work of art. I'm aboard a jeepney. Now, from the outside, they look quite military. That's because they are. It's basically a US Jeep. After the war, they needed some transport, so they took a Jeep and stretched it. Now, it's the standard form of conveyance. And the great joke is, how many people can you get on a jeepney? 2 more. There's always room to squeeze someone in. If this all looks a bit too exciting, then there are plenty of taxis offering comfortable rides at reasonable fares. Or you can hop into a sidecar and slice through the traffic. The White House. This palace, Malacañang, was the home of the Spanish viceroys, the American governors general, and today the Filipino president. The palace distills the essence of the turbulent recent history of the Philippines, a country that, it's said, spent 300 years in a convent during Spanish rule and 50 years in Hollywood with the Americans in charge. The museum director, Edgar Ryan Faustino, says show business spills into politics.
It's a carnival whenever elections are held. Politics is a matter of having people believe you. And movie stars, of course, they try to make or try to give a credible performance to make them look believable. So in that sense, politics and movies are the same.
Today, this is the main gallery of the museum. But if you'd been invited to a ball during the 2 decades of the Marcos regime, well, this is where you would have met up with Ferdinand and Imelda. And what a place it is. You can still hear the echoes of a troubled past. For my next trick, all I need is a bus to a local beauty spot, Tagaytay, and my smartphone so I can bring you back some video postcards. My favourite day trip from Manila is most certainly out here to Tagaytay, a kind of hill station over 2,000 feet above the sweaty sea level, somewhere you can get some fresh air as well as good food and drink and amazing views over Lake Taal, which has an active volcano in the middle. When Imelda Marcos wasn't shopping for shoes, she was planning to glorify herself and her husband, the dictator Ferdinand Marcos, by building the Palace in the Sky. It's now the People's Park in the sky, and it just shows what happens when dictators go wild. Time for coffee. What could possibly go wrong? The Philippines is one of the world's great coffee-producing nations, and I have just ordered a cup of what is said to be its most delicious, highly prized coffee. It's cost me the equivalent of £4, which is a small fortune in this country. So why am I looking apprehensive? Well, that's because of where the coffee comes from. The beans have been chewed by civet cats and then passed through their digestive system, in which they are fermented to give it a particularly delicious taste. I must say, it's fantastic coffee, as long as you don't think where it comes from. Just one thing, if the coffee beans have been passed by a civet cat, has the water been passed by the management? The lake is named Taal, after the main town on its shores, which was destroyed by an earthquake. Today, only the ruins remain, while the town has been resurrected a few miles away, and is the home of the largest Catholic church in Asia, the Taal Basilica, which feels like one of the more exuberant churches in Latin America, a reminder that the Philippines was an outpost of Mexico for many years. Taal is also home to many fine old mansions and too many fine old jeepneys. A UNESCO World Heritage Site. Taal isn't one of those, unfortunately. I think it should be. It's full of decrepit mansions belonging to families who grew rich when the Philippines had a coffee boom about 150 years ago. Now it's a very, very busy main road. UNESCO, come and help. Get rid of all the traffic and smarten up these beautiful houses, please. It seems extraordinary that Manila is only 50 miles or so away. You feel as though you're deep in the heart of provincial Philippines, in a different world where life is just that little bit slower and calmer. Well, what a remarkable 48 hours I've been privileged enough to enjoy here in Manila. Of course, it's a huge Asian city, but it's also full of cheerful, fun and relaxed people. So do yourself a favour, do as the late lamented Michael Jackson did, come to Manila for a bit of a thriller. The shops of Chinatown are the kinds of place that remind you that, oh sorry, that was absolute rubbish. It reminds you you can't present and you should be sacked immediately, and Ben Ross should be employed in your place. Quite right too. Okay.